So hello everyone, in this video I want to show how we can create this type of landscape where you could see we have different patches like this, then there's a different color, there's like this grass texture like this, and it looks nice, it looks clean. It's also does not take much more processing. The material is simple to make and it just looks better. So let's quickly get started. This is what I had made previously. So this is my landscape which I was just testing. You can ignore, I'm just practicing creating characters like this guy. But you could say this is how it looks. It is patchy, and again it is not as much patchy as this peak, but you could easily change the texture to make it more patchy like this or less patchy. You could change the colors, but this is my version that I've created. If I hide the post process volume, well, it's too bright if I hide the post process. But I'm not going to show how to create this landscape grass. I've already created a video on how to create landscape grasses. Like you could see, there's a landscape grass tutorial. Sorry, this one. I'm also not going to show how to do this autocliff because I already have a video on how to do autocliff, which automatically checks the which one is like curved and then adds a different texture. But what I'm going to show is how to create this landscape. And for rest of it, for this one I'm using PCG to add the trees. Also, this is added with PCG, which is procedural system, I think. I don't know what's the full form. Like this PCG. Okay. So I'm not going to show how to do this trees and all. There's already so many videos on how to use PCG. But the main thing is this grass. And one more thing you might see, or maybe you might notice or not, is let me just show you what would happen if I remove one of the part of the texture. I don't know if they have done this in peak, but probably they have because I've seen this in the last part. So if you look at this one, you could see that this part looks completely simple, but this part actually has this edges and all. Even though there should be this what you call these lines around here, it's not visible. But as you go forward, you could see it starts getting visible, and that is actually needed to be done, else it looks like way too patchy. So let's just go back to this part and then I'll show you what I mean. So let me remove this and then let's apply and see. I removed the exponential fog too, just to show you guys. But you could see that even though I'm here, this area looks like patchy, like a lot more patchy like this. So this is optional, but I do think it's very good to use this because it makes it look a bit better if you use camera fade, especially if you are going for realistic landscape material, like to create like a non-tiling one, then you have to use camera fade, else it looks weird. So let me just add this back. I don't know if you guys can see it. Let's apply, and you could see around here, you see suddenly it looks one color, but only close to me it looks one color like this. It is not much noticeable in this color pattern, but if you are using, I think, something like this color where it's like harshly different, then you might notice it. So let's get started and let's start making it. So I just created a new level. I'm just going to add a landscape. I actually have a file that I can use to create like the curved one. Before that, let me just create the lighting. You could just go in here, choose environment light mixer, and then have it around here so that you could quickly create it like this. We got the lighting ready, but now we want to add a landscape. So I actually have this 50 height maps by GameDev Gary. It's free. You could try and use them. You know what? Let's just use a random one and then play around with the height and all. The only issue is that it places it like way too below. It's a weird thing. I don't know why this happens. So just move it like up, and then you could play around with the scale if you want, how much you want. Like if you do 100, if you do 200, it would be like way too bumpy. So again, I'm just going to do 100 and let's do import. So you could see this is how it looks to me. Let's try doing play. So you could see this is how big the level is. It's your choice how you want to make this. But what I need to do right now is create a material for this landscape. I'm just going to keep this as a reference. Like, it's very basic, you don't have to like get worried by seeing this, but I'm just going to keep this as a reference because I need to also come back and look so that the tutorial is a bit faster. So I'll call it like M tutorial landscape new world or something. And then this one, I'll just create a material instance because it would be easy for us to edit the text later, or sorry, the colors later, and then obviously the values too. Let's select the landscape, scroll down, landscape material, and give it the material instance. It's going to just look weird right now. Okay, so we got our material instance around here. Let me make it low because I don't think this one would actually handle, like my PC would not be able to handle with high quality. So let's go to our master material and let's start making our material right now. So let's take one step at a time, okay? So first of all, I don't really want specular to be this much, so I'll just make it 0 because it's a and I'll make the roughness to be 1 because it's a stylized look, okay? If you were using realistic, then you would probably have some kind of texture to add here, roughness map or specular map. First thing first, let's just add a color. So if you hold 3 and left click, it will basically add a constant 3, and I can just convert this to a parameter, call it class color 1, and let's set a color to be something like green, a bit darkish. Let's copy paste this and then change the color to be class color 2. If you press F2, you could like quickly change the name, and then let's make this in a bluish tint, something like this. So these are the two colors that we will basically add around here. If I use a lerp node, this is lerp, okay? Press L or just do right click and linear interpolate like this, or you could just hold L and do left click, it will get this. If you add this at the first one and then add this at the second one, you could control the color based on this alpha map. So right now it's 0.5, so it's taking half of both, but if we do 1, it will take this color. If you do 0, it will take the top color. You could see it's taking top color if you do A, 1 if you do green. So what we can do is we can actually provide a texture around here. So let's search for a texture parameter. Okay, texture object parameter, and we can call it as grass noise texture or something like this. And this texture needs to be a noise material or any type of alpha material. So I actually have few of them that you could get for free. I'll link it in the description. So there are few of them that I have, like this all 505 Kenny texture, lowest noise. So you could actually use any grayscale texture that you want, okay? Just a good design would actually make the pattern look nicer. So you could see these are like nice patterns. So having nice pattern would make it look better as long as they are grayscale. Okay, so I actually use something I already have called cloud texture. This is like very easy to make in Photoshop, this cloud texture. If I double click on it, this is how it looks. But basically what this is, if you check on only in the R channel, there's a black and white texture. If you check only in G channel, there's a black and white texture, and then in B channel there's a black and white texture. It's nothing but same as using this texture, but instead of having 3 different files like this, you could just add all 3 of them into one, and then you could basically choose which one you want. So I accidentally used like a wrong node here, so let's just search for texture sample. You could use this or just parameter 2D because it automatically converts to parameter. If you don't do this, then you will need to right click and convert to parameter. So this one is going to be a grass noise texture, and I'm just going to delete this, and then here I'm going to select my cloud noise. And then like I said, I can just get black and white texture by using any of this pin, and then I'll get like that texture. If I use R, I'll get this, G this, B this. It's very easy to make in Photoshop. Just look into packed texture. We will also test with like different texture, okay? So don't worry. So I'm just going to use R channel and add it around here. So let me just turn this into a plane. Now you could see one thing, that at some location it's green and at some location it's dark green. And the way that works is if I go to this texture, I'm using R channel, right? So you could see I'm using R channel. So what this means is that wherever there is like white, then it's fully one, it's 1. And wherever there's black, it's 0. And like I said, we can give it like 0 to 1 value, right? So fully black is 0, fully white is 1, and anything in between is like 0 0.1, 0 0.5, 0 0.6, and that all. So wherever there's like, let's say fully white, it will use B channel, and wherever there's fully black, it will use this color, and wherever there is like a grayish value, it will use like between this stuff, okay, based on the texture. And you could try with something like, let's say this one. If I go in here and select this texture, you would see how noticeable it is that wherever there is black, it's using this texture, wherever there's white, it's using this one, and because there is some grayish value in between, it's using a mixture of this. If I check this now, have I even connected to this one? Yes, I have connected to this one. Now the thing is, you can see it's not actually looking good, but if you go like really close, you can see it has been added this stuff. But we don't want that, right? Because when you use stuff like this using this UV channels, we are actually using texture coordinate system. So basically the size of the mesh and how the UVs are made. We don't want to do that because it's such a big landscape. If you want to learn more about like how these textures and all work, I actually have a video called let me check this, like shader fundamentals. It would explain to you a bit more about how UVs work, how the math of the UVs work and all. It's pretty good. You could do VFX and also the shader stuff, okay? So instead of this, we can actually say that wherever there's like 100 centimeter, just add one texture, like one of this pattern or this one square. The way we do this is by getting absolute, search for world position, it will give you absolute world position. And because we only want two coordinates, like there is XYZ because it's world position, but this is UV, which is basically X and Y coordinates, okay? So we can actually just give it X and Y, but this would also not do anything because we need to actually tell it. Like right now you could see it just looks like way too weird. I don't know if I go close if it will even look anything. Nope, it's not even showing anything. But that's because this is just giving absolute world position, like where the position is, but we actually need to say that I want this texture, like this texture, to be this much size of my world. And the way we do is by dividing this like this. We divide this by a very high number, so let's say 1000 centimeters. So if I go and do this, you could see that our texture is now a lot bigger. So let's promote this to a variable and call it as grass noise tiling, okay? And we can set this to a very high number like 10,000, and you could see that it's not actually showing around here because we are using XY coordinates. This is Z. So if I turn this into a cube, you would see edges just show nothing. But if we check the top part, you could see it will actually show, but it's way too small, so it's not much visible because of like the 10,000 tiling. But because our plane would always face up, we can actually just say it this way. So if I go up, you could see how this looks. Let's play around with some colors for now quickly. Let's make it like darker. And you could see the difference, how this looks. But basically what this does is that it makes this texture based on the world. So if I had to, let's say if I create a cube in here, okay, let's add a cube and let's scale it up. Let's see if I give this the same material instance, you would see that it actually looks the same from top, okay, the same color as the down area, which is the landscape. There's a lot more tutorials on how world position works, but you could see that the texture is not actually connected to this, it's actually based on where it's in the world position, you could see. So this is actually good for like lots of different stuff, okay, if you want to create cool effects. So it's based on the world, this texture, because we use world position around here and not a texture or UV coordinate system. Sorry, this one. You could see that even at the further area like this, it's still showing the patchy work. And it might look okay for now, but if you created like a really good what you call like a detailed landscape where there's like more variations made like cracks and all or grass and all, then it would kind of look weird if you have like everything looking like this, especially like further. So what we can actually do is multiply this with a camera fade. So if we take, let's say, camera depth fade like this, and then let's say connect it directly to this one. I don't know what the default value is, so let's see. I think the default value is way too low, so it's hard to see any difference, and I think it might not even be visible in the low quality. Maybe. Okay, it's not even visible right now. So let's add a parameter. You could press 1 to create one singular parameter, or if you press S, it will create directly parameter, or you could just promote this to parameter. It's your choice how you want to do it. The fastest way to do it would be just promote this, and then you already have the name called fade length. And let's say for 1000 centimeter, I think, until uses centimeter, right? It should be, it's still like not visible, but you could see that there's a black outline closer to us, and then it's white fully around here. I don't know if you guys can see it. Let's make it even bigger. Let's add 10,000, and you will start seeing a black color around us, but the further we go, it would be white. Okay, let's see if I play, it might be noticeable. You can see there's a black area around me, but as we go further, it always follows me, and whatever is far would be fully white. Whatever is closer around the 10,000 centimeter area, it would be black. So we know that if we can get black and white value, we could choose two different colors, which is like this alpha area, right? What we could do is we could basically just multiply this with our grass noise texture. And what we are basically doing is wherever there is 0, right? Black and white is nothing but 0 to 1 value. Okay, so close to us is 0, further than us is 1. But we want it to be opposite. We want white to be here but black to be further. Okay, so we could just do reverse, which is 1 minus. So we'll take whatever value we get and then do 1 minus, and then a saturate node. To be honest, I don't think we need saturate node because this would always give us 0 to 1. So there's no reason to do saturate. Let's do apply and see. You could see that close to us is white and further to us is black. So what we are basically going to do is we are going to multiply this value. So you know that close to us, or wherever there's white, it's 1, and wherever there's black, it's 0, and there's like grayish area around there. It could be like 0.5, 0.6 or anything like that. So it creates a nice fade. So, and we already know that we are using a texture around here, which is this texture, which is already 0 to 1. So when we multiply this, when we multiply both of this like this, I don't know if you can see in here, probably not. What we are doing is we are multiplying whatever is far with 0, and anything multiplied with 0 is going to just give us 0, and wherever there's 1, it's going to give us the same value, and then there's like 0.5, 0.6 to kind of change the values a bit. Again, check this video to kind of understand a bit more shader fundamentals. And when we multiply this, if I let's say connect it directly to this one, okay, instead of connecting here, you would see that wherever there's black, we don't have this texture because we multiplied with 0. Anything multiplied by 0 is 0, and that just gives us a black area. And wherever there's 1, we basically just get the same value because 2 times 1 is 2, 3 times 1 is 3, and whatever. And wherever there's like this fading effect, it will just be a bit fade like this. And I'm pretty much sure you can actually control fade from somewhere around here, but I'll just not do that yet. I don't remember, so I don't want to do it. So let's connect this to the alpha channel now, and let's see. I forgot to connect it like this, apply. There's post processing happening, so let me just remove the post processing because it's making it like way too weird. So let's add post process volume and then infinite, and then I'm just going to make it exposure should be manual, and then the colors, let's play around with the colors. So we have created material instance, remember, and then wherever we created a parameter in our like this stuff, wherever we created these parameters, we get the option to change it via our this one material instance. So let's quickly play around with values so that we can see it nicely, because it's like very hard to tell the difference right now. So you could see that close by it is showing this, but I think the texture that I've used or the sizing we have used is like way too much right now. So let's go to our material instance and then reduce it, because we already created, you know, the grass texture sizing. So if I reduce this, maybe not this much, I can play around with the values to get something closer to what we had in peak, something like this. And depending on how detailed you want this edges and all, it just depends on the texture that you use around here. Okay, let me try using where is it, the B panel, because if you check in this texture, the B panel has like way too harsh white and black. So let's try using the B channel instead. If it's harsh changes, then it would also look harsh like this. So you could see, and then we can actually play around with some fade length. So maybe, okay, not this much, like how much you want it to fade. So from this further area, it will basically just look this plain color. And obviously it just comes down to choosing the right colors. Okay, so if you check my other material, which is this one, I have used like 2 different colors around here. And then what I'm actually doing is I'm also using like one extra like glass leaf color and some more stuff to add it more details. Basically you keep on stacking on top of each other. Okay, so this is how it's looking currently. I don't know why I have to click OK to change it, because previously I could have just done this and it was working, but I don't know why I have to press OK right now to change the color. So let's do play just to check, and then you could see as we keep moving, it's actually going to start getting visible further and further, and the rest of the area would be green. It's way too green right now, but again it just comes down to playing with the colors and making sure it works nicely. Now let's add some grass to it. Okay, so we can just move all of this, and if you want we can actually create a named node. So we can call it a named node. It's kind of like a pin basically. I don't know what would be the right word, like it's, you basically save all this stuff in this variable like base grass or something like this. Okay, and then we can basically just move it a bit above, call it base grass like this. And now if I want to get all of this stuff, I can simply just search for base grass and it would be like much more cleaner to work with. So now we want to take the base grass which we have created all of this. What just happened? Because I removed it. This stuff, we just need to do another lerp. Basically we will say that I want to create another map or texture, or sorry, what do you call, like alpha map, where one of the texture should use this whole stuff and the second one would use another stuff. Okay, we are just kind of creating layers basically like Photoshop and something. So the first is base grass, and this one would be like a texture again. So let's add this texture and just rename it to like grass texture or something. Okay, a grass blade texture. And I don't really have good grass blade texture, but what I actually used was scratches, I believe. This is just scratches which I created in Material Maker. And if I just connect it, let's say the R channel, it's a black and white, so you don't really need to use like 3 values because all of them would be just same. So you could just use 1 value. If it's a black and white, it's just 1 value. You could check this video to understand, okay, the textures and all. and this is how it looks basically right now. So let's just copy our absolute world position so that we can control it, and then just change this name to, I guess, grass blade noise styling, and I'm going to make it, let's say, a lot lower. We can obviously change this in material instance too. This is like way too much. Let's do 100. Let's do 200. Okay, let's keep it this one, and then we can iterate later. So we can connect this to our B channel, but I actually want to give this a color, right? I want this to be a color. So what we can do is we could create another constant 3 by pressing 3 and holding, and call it as grass blade colors, and basically just multiply. Because it's a black and white, whatever we add here would basically just, wherever there's black it will just do nothing, because anything multiplied by 0 is 0, and wherever there's 1 it will give the same value, which is this one. So we have to connect RGB around here because we want full colors, right? Not just black and white. And let's make it like grass, yellowish grass, I think. And this is how it looks. If we click in here, you should be able to see. You could say this is how it's going to look. And then we can basically say that this is going to be a B. So there's a grass, and then on top of it I want to add this. Let's see what this shows. Okay, let me add a noise texture around here, like similar to this one. This is nothing but the same noise texture that we use, cloud texture, and then this grass styling. Let's try using this. I don't think this would be a good way to do it. Let's see. Yeah, this is not a good way to do it. So instead, let's try doing this way. Okay, so because this is a grass texture, I can just say that wherever there's black, add this base grass, and where there's white, add this color. So we can simply just remove all of this and use this as our what you call, like, alpha map. So what we are basically saying right now is wherever there is black, use this base grass, and wherever there is white, use this color. Okay, and then connect this to B. There are multiple ways to do the same thing, and you could see this is how it's looking right now, but you could see there's a repeat pattern happening, and we don't want that. And also we don't really want this to be like this patchy, like this noticeable. So let's go to our MI instance, kind of play with some values a bit. You could obviously organize these parameters and all, but I'm not going to do this in this video. Let's play around with the grass color. Where it's like subtle but still noticeable. And then grass blade tiling. I think this looks good. Okay, but it's still like, it shouldn't be fully like this. Okay, it's way too much grass right now. So what we could do is we could actually go to our this stuff and then multiply this with another noise. So what we are basically going to do, let me connect it around here. So you could say it's like fully applied everywhere. We don't want that. So we can do is we can take our this, what do you call, our noise texture. You could use different one or the same one to save memory, and then basically multiply both of this. Let's see how this looks if we multiply both of this. And you could see we have a bit patchiness happening. Let's try another one, because I think there's no fully black one. If you have fully black in this noise texture, then it would basically hide some areas nicely. So you could see we actually have some patchiness happening. We can actually reduce this a bit, like this black color to be more. So I know I'm multiplying with this texture, right? So wherever there's black, like this black area, we can make it more black, so that we can multiply with 0. So like this area is not fully black in this texture, in our noise texture. So if this was fully black, this area would just be not visible. So we can kinda add some contrast maybe, or if you want you could even subtract some values. So we can call it, I guess, dissolve blade grass noise. This is how you also create like a dissolving effect and all, like fire effect and all, by just doing minus. So right now I'm doing these values which are 0 to 1. These are 0 to 1 values, and then we are going to minus something to make it even more towards black area. But because it's minus, let's say if I do -1, it's just going to do like fully black, okay? Because this is 0 to 1, so obviously if you do -1, everything's going to turn 0. If this was, let's say, 0.5 and then do -1, then it turns to -0.5. We don't want values that goes below 0 and above 0 because it's multiply and all, okay? And we don't want to do it for this one. So we can use a node called saturate. What this node does is that it clamps the value between 0 to 1. So if any value goes below 0, it basically turns that value to 0, and any value that goes above 1, it turns that value to be 1. Okay, so if there's any value which is gray, which would be like 0.5, then it does -0.5 -1, then it will be -0.5, but because it's -0.5, it will just turn this to 0. Okay, we don't really want to do 1 because that's like too much, but if we do 0, that's saying like no changes. So let's apply, and if you are doing -0, it's basically same value, right? -0 is just same value. 2 minus 0 is 2, 3 minus 0 is 3, like that. But if we go into our dissolve and slowly increase it a bit, we can kind of create a bit dissolving effect like this to create a bit more patchiness if you want. There are multiple ways to do it. You could even add a constant contrast node, but I think this is like more than enough for my requirement. And you could see that we start to get patches. And if you don't like this repeated patterns, you could actually multiply this. Like if you don't like this pattern where it's like repeating constantly, like same pattern repeating, you can kind of take this texture, duplicate this, call it like grass braid noise styling 2, so that these are not connected. Multiply both of this texture, okay? So what we are basically doing is we are taking this texture and then we are going to just multiply with this texture, but we will basically just scale it up, okay? So let's say if I connect this directly right now, nothing is going to happen because both of them are same. So wherever there is, you can see wherever there is 0, it's just going to multiply with 0. Where it is 1, it will multiply with 1 because both of them are like one top of each other like this. Okay, let's just apply to show. It's going to do nothing because we are just multiplying two values to each other. It's still doing something, not sure why. Okay, so what I thought was it should actually happen this way, right? Because it's the same texture on top of each other and then we are multiplying, so no changes should be there, which it is showing perfectly around here. But it's not actually doing the same thing around here. I don't know why that's happening. It should have just shown the same texture, but for some reason it is actually cutting it more, and I don't like that. Let's make it, let's say 500, and then it's basically going to cut it even more. I don't think it looks good. Let me just try it quickly and then we'll decide if we want to use this or not. The grass petals are not even that visible if we do it this way. So screw it, let's just not do this multiplication around here, one extra multiplication. Let's just keep it this way. So basically we are taking the grass texture, we are just spreading it all over our world. Then we are taking our noise texture, we are spreading it all over the world, and then we are just multiplying it. So wherever there's 0 values and all, we are just multiplying it on top of each other. And if I do play, you can see that you could see actually the grass and all. It just comes down to coloring. Okay, rest of it is just coloring so that it looks nicer, or how much visible you want and all. So if you take the grass blade color and then maybe do, I don't know, yellowish color, you could see it's visible around here more, but not everywhere it's visible. And it also depends on good texture. Okay, so you could see in that they do have a good texture for grass. There's like a nice patchiness grass and all. And what I'm going to do is I actually want to use this same camera fade to our grass texture too, else what would happen is the grass texture would actually be visible even for further. Right now it's not much visible, but it's still been showing around there. So if you are using some other texture, it would be like much more noticeable based on the colors and all, how what color you use. Right now the colors are like very similar, so it's not much visible. But for that, what we can do is this camera fade, right? Because I want to reuse again and again, I can just move it around here and then create a named node and call it as camera fade, and then I can just reuse it multiple times. Okay, so the same value, let's copy this, let's paste it around here, and we will use it in the alpha. Okay, so let's multiply all of this at the end to our camera fade. So you could say this is actually what Peak has been doing. It's the same thing that Peak has been done. You could see the grass textures, the ground material like this, and it just comes down to which texture you use to make it look nicer. So let's just try with different texture. Okay, this is why you create material instance for quick checking. So this is like weird one, so let's just try like weird stuff, you could see. So if you were using something like crack like this, okay, then it would be very weird to see this much far. Okay, so if you reduce this, it looks better. This is the same way that they have done for the last lava level. Okay, let's try another texture. Let me reduce this so that I can see all of this nicely. Let's try, all of these are free textures that you could get on the internet. Like this is the wave texture, so this one can be used for desert type, I guess. So if you change this to, let's say, a deserty area, you could see it now looks like a desert. If you change it to something different, let's see if I have pretty cool stuff or not. So there's some like weird stuff too. I don't know what you could use this for. Let's just play around with some more textures that I find in here. I like doing this where I create something and then just at the end just start messing around. Just place randomly and you find something cool that looks. This is also cool looking. This looks a bit like caustic, to be honest. What's this? Not much noticeable. There's Berlin noise, but it's not going to look nice. I think it's way too same color. There needs to be harsh contrast to look like the Peak version. This super Berlin, it's like way too big. There's this repeat pattern like this. This actually is good for, I guess, edges of the cliff, auto cliff. Let's play around and see, maybe this one. Nope. If this is like something like more black like this, then it's just going to show one color. So you do need nice contrasty stuff. Okay, I know I'm repeating again and again, but that's really important. this is not going to look good, I know. It looks weird. You could see random patterns. You could see this streaks also looks cool. You can even change this to this type of color, and you could see how suddenly the vibe has changed. And all we simply did was change the colors and the texture. And you could obviously, for this type of stuff, you could increase the fade length to be more, something like this. You could see that's how easy it is to do this stuff. Okay, this is the lava area kinda by using vein. So if I turn this to, let's say, a reddish type, and then this one to be brownish type, I don't know how much it would be. This kind of looks like lava right now. This one should be, I guess, a bit, nope, a lot darker, I guess. So you could see, you could use this for like a lava-ish level, like the final level. So all you simply have to do is change the textures and all and play around with it. And all we simply did in our material right now is we made a base grass which is just using a texture and then basically just using two different colors, and then we added a camera fade to kind of not show any difference at the further area. So as at the last further area we just show one color, which is going to be our A. This is just a camera fade. And then this one is similar, but for the grass texture we are just multiplying it once with the texture, a noise texture, so that we don't have like a repeat patterns everywhere. You could see the grass looks a bit weird in this kind of scenarios. But yeah, that's how you create this type of textures. Okay, and one more thing, if you are creating very small stuff, then you will need to kind of mix and match with or multiply with some kind of noise texture to remove the repeated texture type. Okay, so you could see it's very similar. It's just using the right colors and then using the what you call like right textures and all. So yeah, that's all. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.